Good evening, everyone. I'm Barbara L'Italian, and I came into the legislature in 2003, so I really was able to work with wonderful people like Alice Wolf and Speaker Bob DeLeo. I'd like to speak a little bit as a parent of a child with autism on what I've worked on in collaboration, primarily with Julia Landau, but also with Ann Guay, who served at MAC and is a volunteer extraordinaire, Tina Fitnades as well. Just quickly, I jotted down a couple of things that we've worked on over the last 15 years. We started a children's Medicaid waiver to allow for wraparound services for kids, looking at models in other states and deciding that we would build over the years, and we have. We started with a very small number of people being served, children that needed wraparound services, and that's grown every single year with every single budget because of the value that's placed on helping kids with autism in the Massachusetts legislature. And I will say it right at the outset that so much of this we were able to do because of really the partnership with initially Ways and Means Chair Bob DeLeo and then Speaker DeLeo. But when he sees Julia and I coming down the hall, he always meets with us, always talks with us, and has always been our champion. So I have to say that up front. We also worked on having IEP protections put in for folks for non-academic times, recognizing that kids with autism, we have to pay attention to their social and emotional well-being as well. And it's not just for some kids about grades, but it's also about taking care of the whole child. We made sure that within the bullying language, the protections that were put forward a few years ago, that there was special attention made to kids with autism because of the research done by mass advocates talking about the high numbers of kids on the autism spectrum that were being bullied. And in fact, I reflect back on my own son and some of the bullying that happened to him on the school bus when he was a little boy. We worked on augmentative communication training for teachers. And that's still a work in progress. We have training required for special ed teachers. Ideally, we'd like to have that be a cross-training for regular ed teachers as well. But the notion that for so many of our limited communication and non-communicative autistic children, to have the opportunity, having an iPad or a tablet opens up a whole world of communication for them. So much has been improved from the days when I first got out of college and we did this on little pieces of paper, right? But making sure that the teachers were trained so that when a child came into their classroom, that they would be able to help them right away with no delay. We worked on medical insurance coverage back in 2010, the groundbreaking medical insurance coverage that covered the private insurance market. Julia was part of the Autism Commission. She helped write the 10-year plan that we worked on, as did Ann Guay. And then it was really Julia and Ann and Tina were part of the core of people that were walking around after the 10-year plan was written to make sure that of our 14 legislative suggestions, pieces of legislation filed, that would become an action plan. And in fact, 8 of those pieces of those bills got rolled into an omnibus bill that was passed in 2014. Included in that was then mass health coverage, also for ABA and other medically necessary treatments for folks with autism. We knew we couldn't get the whole thing passed in one fell swoop, but we went back and made sure that we gave equal opportunity to folks, to young low-income children. We also were able to pass an autism endorsement, which is a specified autism teacher training that teachers can seek out and voluntarily participate in. And there's a lot more that we are working on, we continue to work on. Again, Julia is just incredible. I know that the speaker mentioned her specifically. She is doing such wonderful work. I also know that in the city of Lawrence that I represent, folks are going in and trying to be certain that there is bilingual representation for families to understand their rights. There are Know Your Rights trainings that go on. I know the work that's been done within the city of Boston as well. It's gotten to the point where if Julia collaborates with us on legislation, we actually have groups that really pay attention to everything that if MAC is involved, because they know of our success and they really pay due attention. So again, this could not be done without the assistance and on-the-ground leadership from Julia Landau, which comes of all those calls and all the work that everyone does from that really bubbles up what the needs are and what we need to be working on. And so when I think of my last 15 years, I really think of Julia first, but her team as well, the real collaboration with all of my colleagues here in the House and the Senate, particularly with Speaker Bob DeLeo, because he really allowed us to really work on these issues and see some real success. So MAC is really an incredible organization. It's something to be really proud of. I'm so glad now that we see self-advocates, and I think of Thompson and Kandron when we talk about self-advocacy and self-determination, and I know there was a transition piece that was worked on as well. There's so much more to do, so we're never satisfied. And I think that in this day and age of Betsy DeVos, we really have to look at protecting within Massachusetts. If we see an erosion of rights at the federal level, we're really going to have to make sure that Massachusetts stands tall and protects the rights of all of our young people with disabilities. Thank you.